"Ma'am, you can't come through this gate." The voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was the kind of voice that implied authority and suspicion in equal parts. Camille paused mid-step, turning slightly toward the woman blocking the boarding lane. Gray Jetstar uniform, neatly clipped blonde hair, name tag Laura W. "I'm sorry," Camille said, not angry. "Not yet. This boarding lane is for first class only. You're likely in the wrong group." Camille reached into her bag. No sudden movements, no edge in her tone. She pulled out a printed boarding pass and handed it over with her government ID. "Camille Jordan, seat 2A, first class, checked in at 3:42 this afternoon." Laura took the documents like she was being handed counterfeit cash. "Right," she muttered. "But you're not showing up on the roster. I've checked twice." Camille held her ground. "And I suggest you check once more." Laura looked her up and down. Sleek black pants, minimalist blouse, tidy twist-out bun, no designer bag, no obvious jewelry, nothing about her screamed executive or elite, nothing about her fit the unspoken image. A slight frown tugged at Laura's mouth. "Are you sure you booked first class?" That line, the one black travelers knew too well. Camille didn't respond. She didn't need to. Behind her, a man in a golf hat mumbled, "Some people don't understand what priority means." A chuckle. Another phone lifted discreetly. Camille remained still, calm. Laura tapped her earpiece. "Supervisor to gate 7. Passenger insists she has a first-class seat, but she's not showing up. Possible error or misuse?" The air shifted. Someone in line behind her whispered, "This is getting awkward." Still, Camille said nothing. She simply looked Laura in the eye and spoke once, low, level. "You should check your system again." She began to pray. An hour later, the car, before Laura could reply, the sliding glass doors opened behind them. A woman in a navy blazer strode forward. Her heels clicked like punctuation. Her voice was clipped and corporate. "What seems to be the issue here?" Camille didn't turn her head. She simply held out her boarding documents, a printed boarding pass, a government ID, and a platinum loyalty card. Laura glanced at them, then passed them to the woman in the blazer, who scanned each with clinical detachment. "Camille Jordan, seat 2A, first class." The woman paused. "Do you mind if I check this against the manifest?" Camille shook her head once. "Be my guest." The woman, her name tag read M. Reynolds Flight Operations, tapped rapidly on a tablet. Her expression never changed, but the silence lengthened. "It's not showing up," Reynolds said flatly. "There's no 2A issued to this name in today's first-class roster. Are you sure this was confirmed?" Camille blinked once. "Would you like to see the confirmation email from your system?" Reynolds nodded. "Go ahead." Camille pulled out her phone, tapped once, and held it up. An email. Subject line, "Confirmed." ATLZRH/C2A/first class from norby@jetstarlux.com. Reynolds didn't even read the body of the message. "This could be doctored. We've seen these before." Camille tucked the phone back into her coat pocket. Behind her, someone whispered, "Damn, they really go in there?" A few rows back, a younger black woman whispered to her friend, "She's being real calm about all this. I would have flipped already." To the left, a white man in a Patagonia vest chuckled. "I mean, what did she expect dressed like that?" On the bench nearby, a creator named Tracy at Flight Truth 2477 tapped twice and whispered, "We're live." Her TikTok caption read, "Black woman just got told her first-class ticket isn't valid. Same airline that trended last year. Let's see how this plays out. Jetstar Truth, ATL." The comment section lit up instantly. "Is this Jetstar again? She better sue." Wait, she showed a boarding pass, an ID, and loyalty status. Reynolds leaned slightly closer. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside while we clear boarding for verified first-class passenger." Camille didn't move. "I am a verified first-class passenger. "You're holding up the line." Camille turned slightly. "Then verify." Her voice wasn't loud, but the weight of it made Laura flinch. From the side, someone muttered, "She sounds like she runs the place." Reynolds radioed, "Security to Gate 7. Passenger refuses to comply with boarding protocol." Camille folded her arms. Calm. Centered. Behind her, Tracy's stream viewer count jumped past 1,400. And still, she hadn't raised her voice once. The silence around her had a temperature. People weren't just watching, they were calculating. To the left, a middle-aged white woman pulled her designer tote closer to her lap. Behind Camille, a man in business casual leaned sideways to another. "She's probably trying to sneak into first." "I've seen this before," someone whispered. "They should just call the captain already." Camille didn't move. Laura was still pretending to check the roster, even though she knew she'd already made up her mind. Reynolds, the woman in the navy blazer, stood nearby, glancing at her tablet but mostly watching Camille, as if trying to decipher a puzzle that didn't fit. And all the while, Tracy's TikTok stream kept growing. Okay, so this woman has her ID, her boarding pass, and she's being told she doesn't belong in first class. Sound familiar? One of the comments on the stream read, "She's too calm, something's up." Another said, "Not surprised, same airline, different target." A third, "She's giving CEO energy and they think she's the help." Laura looked up. Her tone had shifted, lighter, almost performative now. "Ma'am, it's probably just a tech issue. Maybe you accidentally selected economy while booking?" Camille blinked, slow. "I didn't." Reynolds cleared her throat. "We're not accusing you of anything, but sometimes there's confusion in the booking system. These things happen." Camille looked directly at her. "These things happen to people like me?" Reynolds didn't respond. Across the terminal, a teenage boy with a cracked phone whispered into his mic. "She just said, 'These things happen to people like me.' Yo, this just got serious." Behind the counter, Laura was still tapping, still pretending to search, still ignoring the words printed clearly on Camille's boarding pass. A white man in a tailored suit, already seated near the gate, leaned toward his wife. "She doesn't look like first class." The wife didn't answer, but her eyes stayed fixed on Camille, uncertain. Camille stood like marble, unmoved. She wasn't protesting. She wasn't pleading. She wasn't playing the role they wanted her to. She was forcing them to look at themselves, and they didn't like what they saw. Two security officers approached, walking with measured professionalism. No rushing, no weapons drawn, just the weight of official fabric and expectation. One was Latino, late 40s, calm eyes, thick mustache. The other, younger and white, was already reaching for her walkie. Laura smiled, visibly relieved. "Officers, this passenger is attempting to board first class with what appears to be a misbooked or possibly falsified ticket." Camille said nothing. She didn't even turn to face them. She simply adjusted the strap on her laptop bag. The older officer spoke first. "Ma'am, may I see your boarding pass and ID?" Camille handed them over, wordlessly. He read it carefully, first once, then again. He checked the ID, checked the pass, looked at her, then back again. "It says seat 2A, he said to Laura. "First class, boarding verified at 3:42 p.m. Laura frowned. "Yes, but she's not in our system manifest to you the physical pass." "There's probably a technical override, or a third-party error." "Look, I don't want to delay boarding any further." The younger officer looked unsure. The older one stayed composed. He turned to Camille. "Ma'am, would you mind stepping aside just for a moment so we can verify everything with the gate system?" His tone wasn't threatening, not even forceful, just procedural. Camille's gaze didn't waver. "I'd prefer to stand right here while you verify it. There's nothing wrong with my documents." Behind them, Phones kept recording. In Tracy's live stream, the comment stream exploded. "She's holding her ground. That man knows she's legit. This smells like racial profiling with corporate perfume." The younger officer leaned toward Laura. "Have you checked the alternate booking queue?" Laura sighed. "I've checked everything." "She's not in the internal roster. Honestly, I don't know how she even printed that ticket." The older officer raised a brow. "You think she hacked the boarding system?" "I think some people know how to game these platforms." The word "some" lingered in the air like smoke. From the waiting area, a voice spoke up. A white woman in a sharp navy blazer, seat 3C, printed on her pass. "Excuse me?" she said. "I saw the whole thing. That woman showed you a valid boarding pass, ID, and loyalty status, and you still haven't verified any of it through your own system." Laura stiffened. "Ma'am, please stay out of this. We're handling it." The woman stepped forward. "No, you're not. You're stalling, and it's starting to look a lot like discrimination." For the first time, Camille turned not to the officers, not to the staff, but to the stranger who'd broken the script. Their eyes met. A silent nod passed between them, and suddenly the gate felt a little less silent. Laura stepped forward again, standing directly in front of Camille. "This is your last warning. Either step away from the gate and let us handle this quietly, or we'll be forced to remove you from the boarding area entirely." Camille blinked once. "You're trying to remove a passenger with a confirmed ticket for the seat she's standing in front of." Laura's jaw tightened. "You're creating a scene." Camille's voice remained low, controlled. "I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I followed protocol. You're the only one escalating." Behind them, a few gasps, a cough that wasn't really a cough. Tracy's stream jumped to over 2,300 live viewers. The younger security officer fidgeted. "Maybe we should just double-check with gate control before—" Laura cut him off. "She needs to leave, now." That's when the second voice joined in, from across the terminal. It was a man this time, late 30s, black, business suit, watching since the beginning. "This woman's been nothing but respectful, and you're trying to throw her off a flight she paid for?" He shook his head. "That's not how this works. Not anymore." Camille didn't smile, but something behind her eyes shifted. A slight lightening, a loosening like pressure recalibrating. Reynolds, still clutching the tablet, looked suddenly uncertain. "Look," she said, voice cracking slightly. "We're just trying to follow procedure. It's possible someone made an error. We're not accusing anyone of anything." Camille met her gaze, steady, neutral. "I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking you to do your job properly." Lara opened her mouth, but before she could speak, ping. Camille's phone lit up. One name flashed across the lock screen. "Incoming call, General Consul." "Equinox Ventures." She silenced it. Tracy's eyes narrowed, zoomed in on the screen. "What the hell is Equinox Ventures?" she whispered into her mic. One viewer commented instantly, Wait, isn't that the firm that just bought 28% of Jetstar's stock?" Another added, "Brah, she's not a passenger, she's a shareholder." And then another, "Oh my God, she's the one who owns the damn airline." But Camille still hadn't said a word about it. Not yet. Instead, she looked at the officers. "Are you asking me to leave the gate?" The older officer hesitated. "Just a moment, ma'am. I think we need to make a call." He stepped back. Laura stared at Camille like the ground beneath her had started to crack. Camille didn't move. She didn't need to. Because in that moment, everyone else did. The boarding area felt suspended, like the moment between lightning and thunder. No one dared speak loudly. But no one had stopped watching either. Camille stood motionless. The older security officer had stepped away with his phone. The younger one scrolled through her tablet nervously, pretending to check systems she didn't understand. Laura fidgeted, arms crossed, glancing toward the gate as if hoping someone more powerful would appear and validate her. Reynolds, the blazer-clad supervisor, just stared. Not at Camille, but at her own reflection in the terminal window, as if trying to decide which part of her just cracked. Tracy's voice came through the TikTok stream, whisper soft. "All right, let's run this back. Woman shows ID, shows boarding pass, shows loyalty card, still not allowed to board." She turned the camera slightly to show the gathering of silent, watching passengers. "Every phone in this place is out," she murmured, "but nobody's saying a word." Her comments flew. "She's too calm for this to be normal." That text that popped up? Rewind. I swear it said General Counsel. I think I've seen her somewhere before, like on LinkedIn, maybe? To the right of the gate, a young man in headphones and a NASA hoodie leaned over to the woman beside him. "I think she was on the cover of Black Enterprise last year, tech CEO or something." The woman raised a brow. "Her? In economy cut pants and a Zara coat?" "Exactly." They both looked at Camille again, noticing, really noticing, how little she was reacting, how still her hands were, how focused her breathing. This wasn't passivity. This was someone waiting for something, or someone. Behind the Jetstar desk, Laura whispered sharply, "Why is nobody clearing her out? We have boarding times to meet." But even her voice was cracking now, not from fear, from the slow, creeping realization that she might have misjudged not just a seat, but a storm. Camille stepped one pace back from the counter, not in retreat but repositioning, a quiet recalibration. Still no eye contact with Laura. Still no explanation. She reached into her coat pocket, retrieved her phone, and typed something with her thumb. 4 or 5 short words. Then she hit send. The message screen flashed white for a split second before she deleted the entire thread. No trace, no visible app, no notification sounds. She moved like someone trained to leave no digital footprint. From 3 rows away, a teenage girl with acrylic nails and hawk-like observation whispered to her older sister, "Yo, that was encrypted texting. She deleted it before the preview even loaded. How you know that?" "I follow whistleblowers. That's a Silk app. Nobody uses that unless they're working with lawyers, feds, or Fortune 500s. They both turned to watch Camille now. Not like she was a victim, but like she was a player on a different field. Behind the counter, Reynolds's tablet buzzed softly. She tapped once, frowned, and suddenly looked up at Camille again. She didn't say anything, didn't move, just stared, like she had missed something enormous. Camille had already tucked the phone away. She stood with her arms crossed, not defensively, just settled, planted, ready. A younger gate agent passing by glanced at her, slowed, blinked once, and then kept walking. He didn't say a word, but he recognized her. Tracy's camera caught the movement. Her chat exploded. Someone just flinched. That dude knows her. Why would she delete a text mid-crisis? Unless she's not in crisis. Wait. Go back, enhance. Did the name on that phone say General Counsel? Someone zoomed and clipped the moment already. It was being reposted on X, TikTok, Threads, YouTube Shorts, every possible stream. Camille hadn't said a single revealing word, but the message had been sent, and thousands had already received it. It started quietly, the way all viral things do, a freeze frame from Tracy's stream, a blurry moment when Camille's phone lit up. The contact name, General Counsel, Equinox Ventures. By the time it hit Twitter, or rather X, it was already captioned with fire emojis. This woman just got booted from first class and her lawyer is general counsel of a private equity firm. I smell class action incoming. Jetstar profiling Camille Jordan. Equinox Ventures 5 minutes later, someone dropped a LinkedIn screenshot. Camille Jordan, founder and managing partner, Equinox Ventures, Global Investments, DEI Transformation. Ownership reimagined. Another post followed. Forbes, October issue, page 42. The Black Woman Rewiring Corporate America. Red circles, yellow arrows, slow-mo TikToks with true crime energy and trap beats. Within minutes, Camille Jordan was no longer a nameless woman in line. He was a name, a brand, a power. One thread broke it down for the uninformed. Equinox Ventures acquired 28.4% of Jetstar Lux last quarter. It's the second largest shareholder behind the board. She's not trying to board a flight. She practically owns it. Inside the terminal, the change was palpable. Not loud, not dramatic, but noticeable. The NASA hoodie kid who had muttered earlier now sat straight. The suit and tote couple were no longer whispering. They were watching nervously, like maybe they'd picked the wrong side. Behind the counter, Reynolds kept refreshing her tablet. Laura pretended not to glance at her, but her shoulders were locked tight. The younger security officer glanced at her phone discreetly and muttered, "Oh shit." The older officer came back from his call. His face looked different now. Not panicked, not guilty, but informed. He looked at Camille and didn't say anything yet. She hadn't moved. She didn't need to. The algorithm had moved for her. The tension didn't burst. It shifted. Subtly, unevenly, like tectonic plates beneath polished airport tile. A junior gate agent walked past the Jetstar counter with a clipboard in hand. He glanced at Camille mid-step, then stopped. Not fully, just a half-second freeze. His eyes narrowed. Recognition flickered. Then, panic. He turned on his heel and disappeared into the back corridor without a word. No one stopped him. But Laura noticed. So did Reynolds. Camille remained still. The older security officer approached her again. Slower now. Less procedural. More careful. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "would you prefer to wait in the VIP holding lounge while we sort this out?" Cammy turned her head, the first full motion in nearly 5 minutes. "I'm not the one who needs sorting," she said. Before he could respond, another voice cut in from the side. "I think that's her." A woman, older, South Asian, holding a MacBook and a boarding pass for business class. Everyone turned. She pointed discreetly. "Camille Jordan, Equinox Ventures. She spoke at the Global Equity Forum last quarter. I was there." She wiped the floor with the entire Bain panel. A pause. The kind that folds time. "I thought she looked familiar," another voice murmured. A third. "She's the one who made that investment firm walk back their diversity rollback." "What's she doing in commercial first class?" That last question wasn't sarcasm. It was awe. Behind the counter, Laura's lips parted slightly. She didn't say it, but her eyes did. "We fucked up." Camille didn't smile, but she did shift her weight, just slightly, to her back foot, like a queen who knew her court was watching now. The older security officer's radio crackled once. He turned away slightly to listen. A faint voice, too low for anyone else to hear, but his spine straightened by the second word. He gave a single nod, then walked briskly back to his tablet and began typing. Behind the gate desk, Reynolds' tablet pinged. Not a notification, an override. Large black text across the top of her screen. Executive hold engaged. Passenger Jordan, Camille, do not escort. Executive privilege active. Her fingers froze above the glass. Tracy's stream kept running, silently now, her voice muted so she could zoom in on the tech. A follower posted a side-by-side, Jetstar's leaked internal system interface, a red priority banner that only appears for board-level exceptions. Commenters went feral. "Y'all just messed with the boss's boss." Executive privilege sounds like some straight-up Game of Thrones shit. "This is the quietest power move I've ever seen." Camille hadn't moved. Still in line, still in view, but now every system in the terminal was moving around her. Reynolds cleared her throat. She turned to Laura. "We're Adjusting the manifest, Miss Jordan is confirmed in 2A. Please proceed with updated clearance. Laura didn't reply. Her jaw clenched, eyes scanning her own screen for some loophole. There wasn't one. The younger officer peeked at Camille. "You knew this would happen?" she asked, voice barely audible. Camille didn't look at her, just responded, "No." A pause. "But I knew they'd find out eventually." She didn't say who they were, but everyone listening knew exactly who she meant. Reynolds stepped out from behind the counter. "Miss Jordan," she said with thin professionalism, "we'd be happy to escort you aboard now or offer you use of the executive suite until final call." Camille looked her straight in the eye. "I'll wait here." Reynolds blinked. Of course. And just like that, the boardroom had shifted terminals. They called pre-boarding for first class. Camille didn't move right away. She waited half a beat, long enough to make it clear this was her decision, not permission. Then she stepped forward. Tracy Stream followed her up to the gate's edge, then cut. She wasn't flying this flight, but she whispered before logging off, "She's boarding now, but this ain't over. You can feel it." Camille walked alone down the jet bridge. It was November. She could feel it. Camille walked alone down the jet bridge. No escort, no apologies, no gestures of goodwill, just the quiet hum of filtered air and soft rubber under expensive heels. At the aircraft door, a flight attendant in a navy blue Jetstar blazer stood with arms folded behind her back. Name tag, Erin L. She didn't say welcome, didn't make eye contact, didn't move aside. Camille paused for a moment. Just a moment. The space between them held a charge. Not tension, not fear, disapproval. Then Erin stepped slightly to the side. Enough for clearance, not comfort. Camille nodded once, walked through. The smell of first-class cabin leather and citrus cleanser met her like a checkpoint. No one clapped, no one smiled, no one offered to hang her coat. A different flight attendant, busy setting glassware behind the curtain, barely glanced up. Camille's seat 2A sat perfectly made, white headrest cover crisp, the pillow untouched. She placed her coat across her lap, not trusting anyone to take it. As she sat, she looked around. 3 rows behind her, someone murmured, "That's her." And someone else closer didn't even lower their voice. Figured. She didn't turn, but she knew exactly what they meant. The pre-flight drink service began with silent efficiency. No announcements, no smiles, just movement. A flight attendant, not Erin, another woman with tight blonde curls and tired eyes, rolled the cart slowly down the aisle. She was handing out champagne in crystal flutes, orange juice in tall glass tumblers, hot towels folded with tongs laid gently onto white linen trays. When she reached Camille, she barely made eye contact. "Coffee?" she asked flatly. Camille nodded. "Yes, please. Black." The attendant turned, poured, and handed it over. In a styrofoam cup. Lid half snapped on. No napkin, no tray, no offer of sweetener or stir. Camille took it without expression. She looked down at it for a long moment. Not insulted, just noted. Across the aisle, 1B, the woman who had whispered earlier, was served her cappuccino next. Porcelain cup, tiny saucer, gold-handled spoon. Camille waited, quiet. When the attendant passed by again, Camille raised the cup slightly and said, with no anger, "I noticed I was served in styrofoam. Was that a supply issue or—" The woman didn't stop walking. "We ran out," she said without turning. Camille said nothing. But less than 3 minutes later, a young white man in 2B boarded late, headphones around his neck, hoodie under his blazer. He sat. The cart rolled back, and there on his tray, a porcelain mug, steam rising, spoon glinting. Camille watched it settle into place beside him. He looked confused. Why was she watching him? She didn't answer his look. She simply took another sip from her styrofoam cup and made sure he saw it. It came quietly, the way most real things do. The flight attendant was serving water down the left aisle. No cart now, just a silver pitcher balanced against a folded cloth. She reached Camille's row and bent slightly, pouring into her half-empty glass with practiced precision. As she straightened, her hand brushed Camille's tray, just long enough to leave something behind, a napkin, folded, crisp, white, with a smudge of ink barely visible at the edge. No sound, no words. She moved on. Camille didn't touch it immediately. She waited until the attendant was 2 rows down, then slowly lifted it with one hand, unfolded it once, then again. Written in slanted black ink, barely 4 words deep. "They don't know who you are, but I do. Row 4C. That was it. No name, no flourish, no drama, just the acknowledgement, the first real one all day. She read it twice, then folded it back precisely, slipped it into the inside pocket of her coat, near her chest, and sat still. Across the aisle, 1A glanced at her, again, but this time her stillness looked different to him, like she was waiting for something that wasn't going to come from him. The cabin lights dimmed slightly, preparing for taxi. The final boarding tone chimed. Camille had just closed her laptop when a shadow appeared beside her. Not Aaron, not the attendant with the coffee. Someone new. Older, polished, wearing the charcoal gray of Jetstar's international crew leads. He leaned slightly and spoke softly but clearly. "Ms. Jordan, the captain has asked to speak with you for a moment before departure, if that's all right." Every seat within 6 feet turned slightly. No one said a word. But the air shifted. Again. Camille didn't ask why, she simply nodded once. Of course. She unbuckled her seatbelt, stood slowly, and slipped on her coat. Her movement was smooth, deliberate, not just polite, tactical. As she stepped into the aisle, she passed the couple in 1A. The woman stiffened. The man watched her like someone tracking a chessboard he no longer understood. Row 3D's phone, already half raised, tilted slightly higher. Row 4C, whoever they were, didn't move, didn't flinch, just watched her pass, eyes steady. At the front of the cabin, the attendant drew the curtain open for her. Beyond it, the narrow passage to the flight deck. Camille paused, then stepped through. She didn't turn back, because she didn't need to. She had already taken the cabin with her. The cockpit door wasn't open. It was waiting. A flight attendant tapped a silent sequence into the security panel, and with a soft click, the reinforced door released. The captain stood inside, tall, late 50s, silver hair, and a crisp uniform that fit like armor. His stripes glinted under the LED lighting. He nodded once. "Ms. Jordan." "Captain," Camille replied. No handshake. No seats offered. She remained standing just inside the doorway. Not out of discomfort, out of choice. He cleared his throat. "I want to express that what happened at the gate was not in accordance with our standards." His voice was trained, polished for PR, but not practiced in sincerity. "We've been informed of your credentials and status within Jetstar's stakeholder network, and I assure you, had we known at the time—" "You didn't," Camille said, calmly. "That's the point." He blinked. She continued. "You're not here to assure me of anything. You're here because someone upstairs is already asking where the footage came from." His jaw shifted slightly. She took one step closer, not invasive, just steady. "I'm not here to make a scene," she said. "You'll find I rarely need to." He said nothing. She glanced once at the overhead instrument panel, everything in flight mode, calm skies. Then she returned her gaze to him. "I expect 2 things," she said. "First, a full report sent directly to General Counsel before wheels down. No sanitization, no omission. I want the truth, typed and time-stamped." He nodded. "Second, I'd like the internal crew app updated within the next hour to flag this route's standard protocol for stakeholder handling." She didn't say shareholder. She didn't need to. He knew exactly what she meant. "Yes, ma'am." She took a single breath, a quiet inhale, then turned, one footstep, then two. She stopped just before stepping back into the cabin. "And Captain?" He straightened instinctively. "Yes? Make sure Aaron isn't assigned to my return leg." Then she walked out. The cockpit door sealed shut behind her with a heavy click. Inside, the captain didn't speak. He sat, adjusted his headset, pressed mute, then opened the cabin tablet, an internal device logged directly into Jetstar's in-flight operations system. The interface blinked blue. He opened the secure staff channel and began typing. Reply tone: corporate liaison, Jetstar HQ, CC, flight crew management, in-flight PR, risk unit subject, board member incident, passenger Camille Jordan, priority, urgent, do not archive. He paused for just a second, then let his fingers go. At approximately 4:06 p.m. during pre-board screening, passenger Camille Jordan, C2A, loyalty level, black card, stakeholder designation, executive shareholder, was challenged by gate staff regarding her boarding credentials. Passenger presented valid documents and maintained full compliance at all times. He hesitated, then added, "Escalation was observed in tone and protocol by both ground and in-flight crew. Public attention via social media may impact brand optics. I was requested to confirm crew conduct report submission prior to landing." His fingers slowed, but not out of hesitation. He was no longer writing an incident report. He was documenting fallout, the kind with job titles attached. He finished it, then tapped send. The message flashed once, then vanished into encrypted dispatch. He closed the tablet, sat still, looked out at the clouds, said nothing. Because there was nothing left to say. In the cabin, Camille returned to her seat with the same precision she'd used leaving it. She sat, fastened her belt, ignored the people now pretending not to stare. 1C glanced once, hesitated, didn't speak. Not yet. The attendant passed by with a tray, still no smile, but this time the water glass was crystal and ice cold. Camille accepted it without a word and let them sit with the silence. 37 minutes after takeoff, the flight was quiet. Overhead, the soft chime of cruising altitude. Below, the cabin pressed into its polite routines. Reclined seats, half-sipped drinks. A documentary flickering on someone's screen with subtitles no one was reading. A few minutes later, a flight attendant answered their request. Her Highness Camille hadn't touched her drink. She was reading. Not a book, not a file. Just the same napkin she'd folded earlier, the one from 4C. She unfolded it slowly, read it again. "They don't know who you are. But I do." And in that moment, every Jetstar crew tablet lit up. The push alert didn't ding, didn't buzz, didn't even blink. But the message was there. Internal crew notice. Do not broadcast. Passenger 2A holds executive-level stakeholder status. All direct engagement suspended unless initiated. Corporate liaison team will debrief at destination. Ensure in-cabin discretion. Flag irregular service prior to landing. Within 10 seconds, the shift rippled through the plane. Aaron's attendant from the aircraft door stiffened, then stepped into the galley without a word. The coffee attendant from earlier looked up from her cart and quietly pushed it back to the service station. The man in 1C caught the movement, noticed the timing, glanced toward Camille. She hadn't looked up once. The younger attendant, the one who'd poured her water, passed by again, slower this time. She didn't speak. But her eyes, they apologized. Camille didn't respond. She wasn't cruel. But she wasn't rescuing anyone either. Not here, not today. Part 3 is complete. Shall we continue to Part 4? Recognition from a suit, where a fellow passenger, a Jetstar exec, finally realizes who she is and attempts to salvage the situation mid-flight. Let's move ahead. The dynamic is about to flip in full view. It was mid-flight. The lights dimmed just enough to cast soft shadows under chin and collarbone. The air had shifted again, not tension this time, recognition. The man in 1C close-shaved gray blazer, a black Jetstar logo barely visible on his lapel, turned slightly toward her. He hadn't spoken all flight, hadn't whispered, hadn't stared, but he had watched, closely, precisely. "Excuse me," he said, low, measured. Camille turned her head, slow. "I didn't realize, until just now," he continued, adjusting his cufflink like a reflex. "We met. Zurich Equity Conference. I was with the APAC team." She said nothing. He cleared his throat. "You were the closing keynote. I remember because you used the phrase, 'ownership doesn't need permission.'" It stuck. Camille tilted her head just slightly. Recognition clicked for her too. Not his name, but his type, mid-tier, useful, present in rooms but not quite of them. "You're with Jetstar Corporate," she said flatly. He straightened, like he'd been offered a lifeline. "Yes. Innovation strategy. I had no idea you were flying today." "You weren't supposed to." He blinked. Her voice didn't rise, it didn't sharpen, but it landed. He smiled, awkwardly. "Trying to pivot, trying to warm the air. Well, this won't reflect well, obviously, but it's being escalated. HQ's already on it. I imagine the board—" "You imagine too much?" This time the woman in 2C looked up. So did 1A. The man in 1C paused. Camille returned her gaze to her screen. Calmly, decisively. "I'm flying back for the board meeting," she said. He opened his mouth, closed it, then sat back, legs crossed. He didn't speak again for the rest of the flight. The cabin lights lifted slightly. A flight attendant's voice, the male one, new, formal, came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our initial descent into Boston. Local weather is clear with a ground temperature of 72 degrees. Please secure all items for landing." Camille leaned back in her seat. She hadn't removed her coat. She hadn't accepted another drink. She hadn't asked for anything, and now she wouldn't need to. Because the shift had already happened. The woman in 2C glanced over, hesitant. "Lovely coat," she offered. Voice light, too practiced. Camille didn't answer. She wasn't cold. She was finished. Across the aisle, the man in 1A, who had stared so openly before, now pretended to scroll through his phone. His thumb moved, but his screen never changed. Even 1B adjusted her scarf in a way that said, "I wasn't part of that." "I'm nice. I know who you are now." Camille sat motionless. One row behind, the man in 1C cleared his throat once. Didn't try to speak again. The final chime sounded. Seatbelts clicked. Turbines hummed lower as the aircraft descended through the last layer of clouds. And when the wheels touched down, a text hit the captain's secured crew tablet. "Passenger 2A will be met by corporate liaison on jet bridge. Do not delay disembarkation. Do not engage further." The plane taxied to the gate. The door opened, and standing there waiting at the top of the bridge was a woman in a gray pantsuit with a Jetstar security badge and a discreet earpiece. She didn't check a clipboard, didn't call out names. She just looked directly at Camille and nodded. Camille rose, unhurried, composed. She stepped off the aircraft first, before any apologies, before any corrections, before anyone could pretend they'd never doubted her. She never looked back. She didn't need to, because the plane was still full of people trying to rewrite the story, long after she'd already authored the ending. The jetway was empty except for the woman in the gray suit. She didn't smile, didn't offer a hand. She just nodded once and said, "Ms. Jordan, this way." Camille followed without a word. They moved through a side corridor. No crowds, no cameras. Past service doors and down a private stairwell guarded by a single suited security staffer. Outside, a black Lincoln Town car waited with engine humming, back door already open. The driver didn't ask for her name. Inside the vehicle, the air was cool. A leather folio rested on the seat beside her. She opened it. Inside, a printed transcript of the entire flight log, the gate agent interaction, and flagged social clips from over 40 unique public sources. Everything had already been time-stamped, sorted, and notarized. A yellow sticky note at the top from her legal advisor, all documentation ready. We haven't filed anything yet. K. Next to it, a folded Jetstar employee directory, 4 names circled in red, 2 with question marks. Camille flipped through the rest of the packet. At the back, an unsigned memo titled Proposed Stakeholder Enforcement Policy Revision, Draft 1. She looked out the tinted window. The car hadn't pulled away yet. The woman in the gray suit was still standing at the curb, earpiece in, hand behind her back, waiting for one more signal. Camille tapped twice on her window. The car rolled forward. They weren't rushing, they were executing, and everyone else was already late. The conference call connected before the car hit the highway. A crisp British voice opened the line. "Camille, thanks for making the time. I'm glad we could, contain the situation." Jetstar's CEO, Ellis Margrave. He had that smooth landing voice execs practice in media training, calming, patronizing. "I've reviewed the internal notes, and of course I want to make clear this was a failure at multiple levels," he continued. "The team is aligned on next steps, and—" Camille cut in. "You've seen the footage." A pause. "Yes, the footage has circulated, but I'd prefer to rely on first-hand reporting rather than online virality to inform." "I'm sharing it now." Her voice was ice. She tapped her tablet once. The call beeped. A file uploaded into the shared board drive. Camille_Jordan_Jetstar_clip_mastermove. Multiple clips spliced into a single cut. Angles from Tracy's live stream. Twitter reposts. Gate audio. The moment Reynolds' screen updated. The styrofoam cup, the napkin, and at the very end, Camille rising from her seat and walking through the cabin, unbothered, unapologetic. The board was quiet. Camille let it sit, then asked, "If this happened to me, as a black executive shareholder, what do you think is happening to passengers without titles?" Silence. A cough. Someone unmuted, then remuted. She continued, calm. "This isn't about my seat, it's about your system, and I'm not here to negotiate clarity." Another voice, head of risk perhaps, started, "Camille, I think we can agree the perception was unfortunate." "Perception is privilege," she said. "I deal in outcomes." Pause. Then she added, "I'm giving you 1 week to present a complete policy rewrite with measurable corrective action. And if we can't do that?" Ellis asked. She didn't answer. She ended the call and looked out the window. The skyline of Boston approached, but she wasn't arriving. She was already in the room that mattered. The email went out late Thursday night. Internal memo. Low visibility. No public drama. Subject: Personnel realignment. Terminal D, Gate Ops. Effective immediately. Laura H. Gate Lead is no longer with Jetstar Airlines. We thank her for her service and wish her well in future endeavors. No reasons listed, no lessons offered, because Camille didn't need theater. She needed structure. 3 hours later, another memo followed. Subject: New appointment. Inclusive Culture Officer. We are proud to welcome Priya R., former Jetstar passenger and longtime nonprofit EI advisor, to lead a newly formed role within stakeholder operations. Her experience across advocacy and strategy will shape our next generation of service culture. Her seat? Row 4C. Camille hadn't even included a cover note. She'd just circled her name in the manifest and written, "She's already doing the job. Make it official." The new internal training module launched that same week. Its title was short, Respect Recognition. Every new crew member and all gate staff had to pass the module before active assignment. At the end of the course, one line appeared in bold: "We serve people, not profiles." If they have to prove they belong, then we've already failed. It wasn't signed, but no one doubted who wrote it. She wrote it in one sitting, at her kitchen table, glass of wine untouched, her laptop humming, no edits, no approval cue, just her. She posted it to LinkedIn at 11:07 p.m. on a Sunday. The title, What They Saw and What They Didn't. No capital letters, no corporate jargon, just this. I wasn't wearing a name tag, I didn't flash a badge, I didn't raise my voice. And still, they saw a problem where there wasn't one. Not because I lacked credentials, but because I didn't perform them fast enough. So they filled in the silence with a story they thought they recognized. A black woman in first class must be a mistake, must be fraud, must be corrected. But here's what they didn't see. I owned shares in the very company they were protecting from me. I helped draft the policy they violated. I helped hire the executive team they assumed I didn't know. And still, I wasn't angry, I was busy. Because real work isn't about proving you belong. It's about building a world where you don't have to. The last line, just one sentence, you don't need to be recognized to matter. But I make sure we're seen anyway. She closed her laptop, didn't check the comments. By morning, it had over 2.7 million shares. One on LinkedIn's trending list, quoted in Adweek, Forbes, NPR. The phrase, "they messed with the wrong one," was trending on Black Twitter before breakfast. Camille didn't post a follow-up, because the letter didn't need a sequel. It was the answer. It was a Tuesday, no special event, no board meeting, just another flight. Camille moved through Logan Terminal B with her coat draped over her arm, sunglasses low, steps quiet and steady. She didn't need priority boarding anymore. Not because she'd lost it, because she wasn't waiting for permission. The crowd parted naturally, not out of fear, out of instinct. She passed gate 19, then 21. Her gate was still 10 minutes away. At gate 22, a family stood near the windows. A woman in her late 30s holding a coffee, a little girl, maybe 7, clutching a book and a doll. The girl stared. Camille didn't notice at first, but the mother leaned down and whispered something. The car grew momentarily. Car moved off into the darkness, the woman leading the way. Camille spotted it. The girl nodded, eyes wide, and didn't blink. As Camille approached, the girl tugged her sleeve. The mother, startled, whispered, "Baby, what are you doing?" But the girl stepped forward and said, not loud, not shy, just certain, "That's the lady from the plane." Camille paused, looked down. The girl's hair was in neat braids, tiny gold stars on her sneakers. Camille crouched slightly, just enough to meet her gaze. "Hi there," she said. The girl smiled so hard her top lip disappeared. Camille lowered her glasses, just for a second, and winked. The girl beamed, and Camille stood, nodded to the mother, who mouthed a stunned, grateful "thank you," and kept walking. No applause, no spotlight, just footsteps, one after another, because now she was already seen. Hi, if you've stayed with me this far, thank you. This wasn't just a story about a seat. It was about what happens when people assume you don't belong, not because of what you've done, but because of what they've already decided you aren't. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand the spotlight, but I made sure the silence didn't mean surrender. Because too often we're asked to prove ourselves in spaces we already helped build. This story is for every black woman who's been questioned, second-guessed, or made to feel invisible. And it's for anyone who's ever had to sit quietly in a room that should have been theirs. We don't need to explain ourselves to be powerful. We don't need to be loud to be seen. But when we do speak, the world should listen. If this story moved you, made you think, or made you feel seen, please like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We've got more stories, real, raw, and powerful, coming soon. See you in the next one.